I study science communication, but more specifically, I think about sort of how people form attitudes and opinions from that science information, right, that they might encounter in media. And so engagement for me is often in the form of engagement with science on social media, right? Things like viewing or liking or sharing, retweeting, that type of engagement. And so because of this sort of broad definition of engagement, it is a large part of my own research agenda, right? And so I want to understand how and why people come to the opinions that they hold about scientific topics. And so understanding how they engage with and maybe consume information is a part, right, of why, of how I include that concept in my work. That term, I think, is really broad and it's used in a lot of spaces, but when I think about what it means, it, again, is often my flavor of engagement might differ from others because of its focus on media, right? It's often an engagement with science on some type of media. And when we think about media types that you might engage with, what comes to mind is the social interactive forms of media. For my work, why I'm interested in engagement and why I think that matters is that engagement, that social interaction, right, can then influence our attitudes and our perceptions of risks and things like that. And so that, for me, is why engagement matters. I'm currently working on a project with humor in science communication, right? And so my collaborators and I are focusing on sort of how scientists or how people who communicate science use humor online. And so there are two parts of the project. One part is to sort of quantify and characterize the types of humor that we might encounter online, and so content analysis of humor and the hashtags related to science humor. Because of that, there is the engagement part, right? How many retweets and how many likes and what and how does that change how we think about those particular issues, right? And so the follow-up part is to conduct a survey and an experiment in that. So taking not only the types of humor, but also the engagement part, the retweets or the favorites, I guess they call it on Twitter. As a researcher, my focus is on the mechanistic side of things. So when I operationalize it, I think about, well, these sort of social normative cues, right, around engagement. Again, like the retweets and likes. So for example, in the experiment that we're conducting, we're gonna change those, right? Change to, a large number of retweets or a very small number, and see how those affect outcome variables. One of the reasons why they really matter is that we have to have some metrics for success of science communication, or at least we need to start to evaluate our communication of science, right? And engagement can be one of these metrics that is important.